today, and I'm going to learn more in the future through this home study course, through Randy's teachings, to protect our assets. I think they'd be very impressed. Because if you explain it right, they'll understand that there's a lot of risk here. And they're putting up with you being away from home, coming to meetings like this, going out and looking at property and managing property on the hopes that that's all going to work out to everybody's benefit when they get older, right? They don't want you to be away from home all this time building wealth and then have it taken away from you 10 or 20 years from now. I was speaking a couple of years ago in Southern California to a group just like this, and after the meeting was over, this guy came up to me and started talking to me, and I said, wait a minute, stop. We're going to have to videotape this. And this is what he said.
I have to tell you, as an attorney here in California, I pride myself on the ability to basically break apart anything legally. And what you've presented is beyond my ability to pierce. The asset protection and the methodology, especially the specific order of going out of state using some of your high-end methods, is just mind-blowing to me. It's something that I can't find a way to pierce it, and I've tried.
Well, thank you. I appreciate those comments. It's nice to have the affirmation like that from time to time that because you're not always believed, when you teach this stuff. Some people think, well, maybe that's all theory, but it doesn't really work. So when you hear it from somebody that's in the streets going after people from time to time, it's nice to know that we put up a barrier you can't get through. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You absolutely have. Thank you.
Okay.
That's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. What he was referring to there, as far as the out-of-state high-end stuff, still tracking me to the hotel here. What he was talking about was, as I mentioned earlier, there's no federal land trust law. It's all state by state. So we're in California. Did you know that you could form a trust in Florida to hold title to your California real estate? Why would you want to do that?
They have better laws in Florida.
Maybe Florida has better laws than California. You see, I live in Illinois, all my investment property's in Illinois, but I don't use Illinois land trust. So think of it this way. If you had California property owned by a Florida trust with a Nevada LLC as a beneficiary, oh my gosh, what a mess. Your head's going to explode.
You know what, the way I understand it, like visually, like if you like call it like layers, right? They break into the trust and then now I don't know. And then
Right, and that's a great way to do that.
So they don't have because they were able to come in, oh yeah, I got the jobs, sign those papers, we're gonna get the information, and then they come in. It's not.
That's right. You know, I mentioned earlier that to sue a trust, you're going to have to serve the trustee. Now, she has no personal liability, so she's not going to be in the lawsuit or anything, but they're going to serve her because she's the person at the top of that stack. And they're going to bring her into court and bend her thumbs back and say, all right, tell us who is the beneficiary, because that's who we really want to get to. And she's going to say one of two things. The beneficiary is a Wyoming LLC, or was, or I don't know, depending on how we write the trust agreement. Remember I said about if you smell a lawsuit coming? But let's just say she says, well, all I know, it was a Wyoming LLC that hired me. Now they got to go to Wyoming. And you see, it's button, who's got the button? And that's expensive. When you're paying a lawyer $300 an hour, it gets really expensive to do all that. So again, most of the time, they're just going to say, hey, this is way too much trouble. We'll just go sue somebody that owns real estate in their name. They're in town. We got it.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Let's say you formulated a land trust in Florida. How would you find somebody to be your trustee? Would you go to an attorney to be a trustee, or how do you find a trustee?
Well, it's a great question. I have a whole chapter in my home study course on who can deed and who should be your trustee. So I give you a lot of good suggestions there. But number one, what I really prefer is your trustee to be from the same state where you formed the trust. Doesn't have to be, but just the ideal. So if you had a Florida trust, you'd have a Florida trustee. So Aunt Maud with a different last name than you lives in Florida, perfect, okay? Now, if that's not the case, you can still form a Florida trust and have a California trustee, for example. You could. If you can't find anybody to be your trustee, then I provide referrals to my students to professional trustees, people that will serve as your trustee for you. You'll meet Sasha later at the end of my presentation in the back of the room, my assistant. She is a trustee. She has a trustee service. And I've got other suggestions all around. So don't worry about finding a trustee. I can help you if you can't find one. Okay? Yes, sir.
So I did not catch the answer to the video. Can attorneys penetrate land trusts? So
Pardon me?
just want to know the answer. Can attorneys actually penetrate a land trust? I think.
Can an attorney penetrate a land trust? Sure as I sure can. I sure can. It's gonna take a lawsuit. We're gonna have to serve her, remember? Prepare the lawsuit, find the trustee, serve the trustee, spend a whole bunch of money getting to that level to get her into court and have her tell us who the beneficiary is. And then we're gonna have to go after the beneficiary. So in my example of where I sold my personal residence earlier, they didn't even want to go that next step. It was gonna be too expensive. So it stopped them right there, dead in the tracks, just by not owning the stuff in my name. Just by having that trust, stopped it right there. Because they knew it was gonna be expensive. Yes, sir.
So what's the difference between creating a trust and appointing a trustee? And then also which laws would apply to that? If I form a trust in Florida and have a California trustee, which state would have the laws apply?
Well, it depends on how you write the trust agreement. But in general, the trust agreement is gonna say, form under the laws of the state of Florida, and I'll give you the trust statute for Florida, and you put it in there. And so the laws of Florida will dictate that trust.
Okay. And that's essentially creating the trust, is just writing up that agreement and having your trustee sign it.
Yes, and we're gonna get the step by step here in just a minute. That was a good kind of question. Before we do that though, I wanna point out, 10 years ago, I've been teaching this stuff for 19 years. 10 years ago, I formed something I call the Land Trust University. And this is my way of continuing to educate my students. So I don't expect you to become an expert in land trusts. You just need to learn how to create them and go on about your business and make money in this business, right? Let me do the legwork for you. So I created this. This is actual online. So it's a university where you can watch videos of me teaching this material to a live audience. You can listen to it on your phone, in your car, on your tablet, anywhere. It's all online. But most importantly is when I update a form or invent a new form, it goes into Land Trust University and you get it. Like the 6.0 version, it's in the university because I just finished it a month ago. It's not in this book because it wasn't invented when this book was printed. It's that new. And all kinds of other things that I'm constantly doing to make your life easier and more secure through the trust. So it is a month-to-month thing. It's $27 a month if you decide to stay in it. But I'll give you 6 months free membership if you become my student today. Free. So you get online everything for free for 6 months. So back to your question. How do we do this? I mean, that's really what you're saying. How do we physically do this? Step one, you create the trust agreement. They had to build this hotel before they brought in the furniture, right? So consider the trust agreement as building the hotel. And step two is the deed. That's what puts the furniture into the hotel, or the real estate into your trust, is the deed. Everybody with me? Step three, you record that deed in the county in which the property is located. Not where you live, not where the trust was formed in Florida, for example, but where the property is located. And then step 4 is the step that I did it best, and that is you start sleeping better. Which is not just humorous, it's true. You really do start sleeping better. I mean, if, for example, you might remember, if, for all of you who bought real estate here already, and you pay what, your garages are about, what, $1 million out here? For a garage, one car. So let's say you bought a one-car garage and put 20% down, 200 grand, and you borrowed $800,000. I bet you went home that night, put your head down on the pillow and thought, oh my God, what did I do? It's a scary stuff, isn't it? Putting your name on that kind of debt. This kind of is the opposite. It makes you sleep better at night because you don't feel that weight of that responsibility. So let's break it down a little bit further. How do we create the trust agreement? Well, we start with a template. You follow my instructions. My 40-page trust agreement has bold printed instructions in it. It tells you what to do, how to do it, suggestions. You fill in the blanks, you hit print. My trustee signs it, and I sign it, and we got a deal. But you know what? That trust agreement stays in our records only. She keeps a copy, and I keep a copy. Nothing gets recorded anywhere on planet Earth. And that's where we have the anonymity of ownership. There's no registry for trust.
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
How do you know that you could trust your trustee? Like, if that's not recorded anywhere, and let's say the trustee decides to take that title and do whatever she wants with it or whatever, what's preventing that?
Well, that's a great question, and I would start by saying that if the trustee could steal your property, these trusts wouldn't have been around for 2,000 years, and they wouldn't have been around for over 100 years in the United States. So there must be a process. And the process is, that trustee can't trot on down to the title company and say, oh, I'm selling the property, here's my deed. The title company is going to say, wait a minute. It clearly says, when we do a title search, it clearly says, John Jones, common trustee. So we want to see the trust agreement. We want to see the identification of the beneficiary. We want to see a letter of direction telling you to sign that deed. So there are measures to protect against your trustee just trotting on down and selling your property. Otherwise, they could, right?
Yeah, but I mean, couldn't they falsify those documents?
Well, yes, but I could falsify a deed anyway. I mean, if it were that easy, it doesn't matter if it's in trust or not. If I'm forging, I can forge a regular deed, right?
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter. If you get enough people to collude with you, like the title company agent and your lawyer and yourself, you all want to go to jail together eventually. You could do it. But I mean, it's good questions, but there are checks and balances that prevent that from happening. Yes, ma'am.
I had an attorney tell me that on the land trust, that it created a lot of fraud, that it doesn't prevent someone from going out because you haven't recorded any kind of a deed against that property. So someone can go out and create a deed and record it against that property, and it's theirs, and then you have a hard time proving it, and it winds up in court.
Well, let's back up. You started by saying that they don't create a deed. We do. Remember, that was step 1.
Okay.
I'm sorry, step 2. Step 1 was the trust agreement. Step 2 was the deed, create a deed. So we are going to record the title of this property in Jexie's name with the legal description on there. Comma, her name, comma, trustee, and the legal description on there. So there is a recorded deed that proves that she's holding title as trustee. Okay? So we got all this covered in checks and balances. We said create the deed. How we do that? We start with a specific deed. And in California, there's a specific deed that you use, unlike everywhere else in the United States, and I will supply you with that deed to use. The seller's the grantor. Remember I said the smartest way to buy real estate is to take title directly from the seller to your trust? So the seller's the grantor on the deed. I'm granting to the grantee, which is your trustee. So the title's going to go from him to her, and I'm not going to be in that chain of title anymore. You'll never see my name, and that's a good thing, right? Okay? don't put your address on the deed. There's a little hint for you. You do have to put an address on the deed, right? It's gotta be an address from the mail the tax bill to. P.O. box. And it can be any P.O. box anywhere on planet Earth. It doesn't have to be your trustees, and certainly you wouldn't want your trustee to have her address on there. So I use a P.O. box. That's it.
This is a just basic question, but what is a deed essentially?
A deed shows proof of ownership.
Okay.
It gets recorded in the county where the property is located. And so once you record that deed, it says, this person owns this property. So if anybody wants to look up who the owner is, they can do that. It's really easy
Is the
now.
trustee on it?
So the trustee is gonna be on the deed.
Okay.
Okay, they are holding title for you.
Okay.
That's their job. Step 3, you record the deed at the county recorder's office, and they're going to either stamp it and mail it to you, if you mail it in, or if you go in personally, they'll stamp it and you'll walk out, showing proof that that title is in your trustee's name. And you keep that for your records, but that is publicly known. That's who the public sees as the owner of the property. And then you get to sleep better knowing that your assets are more secure. Does anybody want to do that? Is that a good idea? After you work so hard to get them, right? Okay, I promised to show you this diagram. So let's say you buy 3 rental houses, and you put them in separate land trusts. 1, 2, 3. And then you make your Nevada, or wherever you form your LLC, you make that the beneficiary of those 3 land trusts. Then if you want to do some estate planning here, you could make your living trust the successor member of your LLC. So you don't want to give your living trust ownership while you're alive. That's why you're the member of the LLC while you're alive, and the moment you die, boom, it goes into the living trust. Make sense? This works like a dream. I was married for 41 years, and my wife died 4.5 years ago. And this is exactly how we had her assets lined up. She had each of her properties in a land trust. They all flowed down to her LLC, which flowed down to her living trust. Now, remember what I said the big difference is between land trust and living trust? Remember, what was it? The biggest difference between a living trust and a land trust?
They need to be there
Pardon me?
for the living, and it's irrevocable or irreversible.
Well, yes, we're dealing, the land trusts are revocable trusts, and the living trust is revocable while you're alive, but when you die, it becomes irrevocable. Curtain and wall, remember? And the trustee of a living trust makes all the decisions. The beneficiary of a land trust makes all the decisions. So when my wife died and all those assets dropped right down into here, guess who's the trustee of that trust? Right. My daughters are the beneficiaries, but I'm the trustee. Yes, sir?
Some cities require that you put the owner's name of the rental property in front of the property. On your list there, would that be the land trust you put on that property?
In front of the property, you mean on the deed? Is
Not
that-
on the deed, but physically, so as the city officials
Oh.
drive by and look at that property, they can see who owns it, they require that.
Oh, my God. I have heard of that, but, to me, that's just more of a reason to use a trust. I mean, my gosh, you're advertising your name in front of your rental property?
That's what they require.
I'm surprised they don't require you to put your home address on the
So
side.
here, you would put the land trust name on that property out there?
Yes, because you don't own it. You would put the trustee's name. You'd put John Jones, comma, trustee. And if, do they require the address? Then you put the P.O. box. No P.O. box? Well, if you can't outthink the bureaucrats, you might as well go home.
Regency office or something.
No, what you do is you put the street address for the post office and the P.O. box number like an apartment number. That way you give, you know, oftentimes people say, oh, no, we can't take P.O. box, you've gotta have a street address. So I give them a street address. I'd like to make people happy. Give them a street address.
We do have, P.O. boxes that act as an address.
Right,
Specific
P.O. boxes, et cetera,
UPN.
UPS. Yeah, when I started doing this 30 years ago, the post office didn't like it, using their street address. Now they advertise it as one of their services. Because all the other places had to be competitive. So you're not being, you know, you're not being fraudulent or, you know, doing anything illegal, immoral, or fattening here. You're just trying to protect your family's assets. And I think you got every right to do that. So in those areas that require the owner of the rental property to post their name and address, my God, why would you not use a trust? That is just crazy.
Is that a California state law, or is that
I
county
don't
law?
know. Is that county or?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh, Fort Wayne, Indiana?
Yep.
Oh, my gosh.
So most of the people have their LLC slapped on the front of the property.
So here's how this will come to bite you. Anybody a property manager in here right now? Managing rental property? Okay? You may become as you buy real estate, because if you don't buy this stuff and hold on to it, you're just buying and selling, you just got a job like everybody else out there. You need to buy and hold this stuff long-term if you want to build wealth. The problem is that's going to require you to hire a manager or you to become a manager, manage the property yourself. So I had a call last year, I get invited once a year to Cancun to speak to a group called the Real Estate Mastermind folks. About 30 of us from all over the United States. We meet in Cancun, we sit around the pool, and we drink. It's a great business experience. And once in a while, we talk about real estate so we can deduct it all. So I'm sitting there drinking around the pool with these folks, and the husband and wife are sitting across the table from me, and they said, Randy, we got your home study course, and we love it, thank you very much. And I said, that's wonderful. How did you buy it? What'd you do with it? He said, well, we live in Dallas, Texas. We have 15 single-family rental houses. They were all in our name. Until one night, Friday night, I got a knock at my door at 9:30 from one of our tenants. And he said, I need you to come over and unplug the toilet and stop it. And my friend said, hey, man, it's 9:30 on Friday night. I'll be there first thing in the morning. The tenant said, no, you don't understand. You're coming over tonight. And called the police. Big brouhaha occurred. And they realized that night that you don't own real estate in your name. What did the tenant do? Just typed in their name, looked up who owned their property, and marched on over to his house because their personal residence was in their name, and demanded action. So we're not only talking about privacy, asset protection, we're talking about personal protection in not owning the stuff in your name. I've been a landlord for 47 years. For 20 of those years, I had 2 little girls growing up in my house. The last thing I needed was some guy I was evicting come knocking at my front door and my 7-year-old daughter answered. So last year I had a lady from Florida call me. She said, how do I get your home study course fast? I said, what's the hurry? She said, I just got a call from one of my tenants. She said, I own 8 rental houses down here plus my own personal residence. They're all in my name. I just got a call from one of my tenants. The man knocked on the door looking for me. And I know who he is. And I'm not interested. What have you done? Just typed in their name. Printed out 9 house addresses and goes knocking door to door looking for them. Light bulb goes off in her head. You don't own this stuff in your name. Some people learn slower than others. She wanted to get those 9 houses out of her name fast. So we're talking some serious stuff here. If that doesn't convince you lady people to not own this stuff in your name, nothing will. But this is a serious business. You need to treat it seriously. We want to make money, but we want to do it in a way that we are personally protected and our families are personally protected. This is how you do it. Any questions on that funnel before we move on? Everybody got it? Now, you might ask, well, wait a minute, Randy, you said that's how your wife's estate was planned. Didn't you own stuff together? Heavens, no. No. Don't mix your assets with your spouse or significant other. Don't do that. Why? Well, it's not so much it creates problems, it creates exposure that you don't need. You see, if my wife and I had all our assets together, meaning, we sign on everything together, we own the trust together, the LLCs together, and I get sued, and you win and you take everything, you got it all. I can't live off zero. But if I got my stuff and she's got her stuff, and you sue me and you get everything that I've got, I can probably live off her half. Won't be a great life, but I can probably do it. Okay, I want to go through 12 of the reasons out of that booklet. I haven't given you the number yet, I will. But the booklet of 50 reasons to use a land trust, we're going to go through 12 of them. Avoid your property going through probate. We just talked about with my wife. We skipped probate, right? Judgments don't attach to the property. Remember I gave you the story of the guy I sued for $40,000? And he put his name on the deed with his daughter? The judgment attached to that property. And if you put that property in a trust, the judgment would not have attached. Easier and safer management with multiple owners. I'm not saying don't do business with people. I'm just saying do it to protect yourself. We could all go together, kick in 10 grand today and buy a piece of real estate. But can you imagine if we all had our names on the deed, what a nightmare that would be? But if we put the title in a trust and we were all beneficiaries, things will operate much smoother. Wholesaling and contract assignments, we addressed that earlier. If you find a deal and come to the meeting and sell it, you can assign that beneficial interest to somebody. No registered agent. There's no franchise fees, no licensing requirements to form a trust. Nothing. Yes, ma'am.
If I can just share really quick, my father, we had a property in San Antonio, and he's remarried. Our mother passed away, and so they had not set this up. So earlier this year, the title company, my dad and his wife were saying, please, and they went through probably 3 months of a humongous headache because the state of Texas shared with them, look, unless you get your 3 children to sign off on this, and we had it was a very sweet kind of process. Dad, of course I'm going to do that, but they were shocked. They couldn't believe it, and they were angry because my dad said, this is my house. And the state of Texas said, unless your parents deed it over or sign off, I don't know the language, but I know we did it as soon as we could, but we had one member that they were just, it was such a nightmare for them. And my father's 80.
Well, I'm glad you
Can
brought that up
imagine?
because,
At 80?
yeah, that
And
could
his
kill, that
wife
could
is
kill
like-
you. The stress
Like
could kill
she's
you.
freaking out. I'm like, I wouldn't take anything from you, Dad, but the state of Texas said, that, and it was so cute, it said, we, like, in our love and our respect, I had to sign my name and I faxed it over and it closed.
If you own real estate outside of California, like Nevada, or any other state, and you die, you're gonna have to go through probate in every state. Every state you own property in, you're gonna have to do probate, not just California. So it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it was.
If you
for them.
use these trusts, I'm gonna give you some California specific stuff here in a minute, but protection against unhappy tenants, by becoming a manager, not an owner, you totally change the dynamics of your relationship with your tenants. It makes it much easier to deal with your tenants. I'm not the owner, I'm sorry. Sorry you're getting a 10% rent increase. I'm just doing my job. Whereas if you're an owner, an argument ensues, doesn't it? Why, you don't need that, I saw you drive up in that new car. You don't need a 10% increase. So it totally makes it much easier to manage property when you don't own it. Avoids due on sale, transfer tax, reassessment of sale and closing costs. What else do you want in life? I mean, that's everything.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money those categories are. You can avoid